Hello folks, how's it going? So welcome to another One Piece review. This time we're covering manga chapter 1119. Extra bit of salt in this water this week. Oh, it must be from all the crying that's been shedding tears throughout the entire week ever since last chapter. I like this chapter because Oda decided to make the whole situation involving the Gorosei a lot more unpredictable, which I like. And even though it's kind of obvious the outcome of the Straw Hats escaping, we know that at least. By all accounts, I think this chapter guaranteed Bonney is tagging along, because for the longest time I've been asking, okay, what is going to happen to them? I kind of have a feeling that Oda is going on the route of them escaping, but okay, it's going to come at a cost. But are they going to show up on Elbaf? Because that was teased in the previous chapter by Broggy. If we don't defeat them, they're going to chase after us since they can fly. Even though Mars was sent flying in this chapter, yet again, this chapter pretty much backs up two things that I said in the last review, but we'll get into that. We'll start off with the cover page with Yamato, and I actually like Oda added this touch into the Yamato cover story. We see the children of Kibi throwing stones at her, and obviously it's abused because Yamato is the child of Kaido, so they resent Kaido and they resent Yamato not knowing. That's a crucial element that I wish Oda touched on more when it comes to like the interactions between Yamato and Momonosuke, being the child of Kaido who caused so much turmoil for the Kazuki clan and for Momonosuke and his family. Obviously, this is something that Yamato has to deal with, and so I like the fact Oda added this touch. Now, nothing too spectacular as far as progression, but I do like the fact Oda added this touch. It's funny, in the previous two chapters we haven't seen Stussy, but this chapter begins with Stussy and Kaku, and I like Oda add this touch as well, having a moment here where Kaku's like, oh, kind of like played it up. Oh, you knew this would be my response, right? Friends don't make me laugh. I did respect you, but nothing will sway Lucci when he comes back, if he comes back. But then Stussy tearing up, full of regret, obviously wants to save Kaku, but you can see where this is going. Like, Kaku's like, just get the hell out of here, leave. So it's obvious Kaku's staying behind, but I don't see Stussy leaving Kaku behind. So is he gonna like take responsibility for this and actually, because it's been teased that a Gorosei will approach them and they'll killing them. So will Kaku sacrifice himself to make sure Stussy escapes? Is that where we're going here? Or, considering what we saw with Lucci a couple of chapters ago, will Lucci join him, a member of the Gorosei, in the ultimate act of defiance to make sure Stussy escapes? Because I don't see Stussy dying because of what Edison said. Edison's like, find a way to live no matter what, and that's how Stussy escapes. I don't know. I don't see that going to the wayside. So I like this moment here. You can clearly see Usopp in Kaku because he's completely lying here, because you can see his face tremble as he's saying that. Like, yeah, we know how you feel. Like, just don't be a hard ass about it. We go to the main event with Bonney and Luffy now in the form of Gear 5th. Luffy's like rocking it out. It's like, yo, let's go in. And you got the giants gushing over Bonney and Luffy. I like we don't waste time with this and we get straight into the action, because Mars open fires and Luffy is like yelling at, doesn't matter if you attack them or not, nothing hurts them. So instead, what Luffy comes up with is a plan to like not blow Mars away, but they're using Luffy as a way to bounce him away. So I like that. So Luffy's using himself kind of like a mattress or a trampoline while the others attack, because you have Sanji, Frankie, and Bonney. Because she's got Sanji and Frankie. Frankie's like, oh, you asked for this. And Bonnie's freaking out, oh, yo, reluctant to attack Luffy. So I like that I did that touch there with Bonney. Like, oh, she's reluctant to attack Luffy. But Luffy goes in, he grabs a hold of Mars. Meanwhile, Sanji using Ifrit Jamba, Hell Memory. So I like that touch. But it's combined into the attack, because you have Frankie charging up the Impactful Strong. You have Bonney channeling the Giant Nika. So the triple attack is Memory's Right Punch. So I love that. And it nails Luffy, obviously, and the attack goes right through Luffy, smashing Mars, sending him flying away. So like the impact of Luffy being hit through to Mars sends him flying. And if you look closely, Bonney is using armament haki for the first time. So that's actually really cool, because that kind of adds a little more clarity as to what she can do, as far as like, oh, she can mimic the abilities of Luffy to some extent, because we do see Luffy using armament haki in his attack later on in this chapter. I love the fact that Bonney has the same expressions that Luffy has when he's like bugging out. His eyes are bugging out of his head. We see it with Bonney here, because obviously the attack hurts her. So, but like I said, the attack just sends Mars flying. I don't think he's out of the picture just yet. So I'm pretty, considering how this chapter ended, I'm pretty sure we'll see him sooner rather than later. But you got Sanji's like, yo, don't let up, Bonney. Just keep going at full force. And you got Bonney's like, what the hell's wrong with you? And she's still keeping the expression. Like, it's hilarious in one aspect, but it's really cool on the other. Like, we got some teamwork action involving this group. Speaking of group, we don't really hear much from Nami in this chapter, but Atlas is talking to Sanji, talking about checking on them. It seems like Luffy is in contact with Atlas in one panel, because you can see like York is monitoring us, Luffy will, and that's where the conversation cuts short. So again, keep in mind that Luffy and Atlas are the two Vegapunks targeted by the Gorosei, regardless of what happens off screen with Nami's group, considering that they need to land where Sanji is, because that was teased in the previous chapter. It doesn't really matter, because we see the Iron Giant stand up underwater, which is badass. We also see that Dendamushi kind of regain, it's still functioning, and we see the message continue. So Vegapunk's message is not cut off just yet. We see Vegapunk's message back on screen. I'll get back to that in a minute, because I do have a question. But immediately, the first place we see as the message is being broadcasted again is Whole Cake Island. We see the Big Mom pirates, and if you look closely, we can clearly see Katakuri for a reason. Oda is showing Katakuri for a reason. He looks to be at full health, considering the last time we saw him, he was doing the German escape cover story. So maybe this is, I don't know, maybe this will play into them trying to get pudding back from Teach's crew, maybe. But I don't know why you would highlight Charlotte Smoothly being alive and members of the Big Mom Pirates if that wasn't the case. So, because that's certain characters we see throughout the world. Most of them are just cameos, because let's be honest, some of them we're not going to see again. Others are going to have a role to play within the final arc, maybe within what's to come next. And even if Elbaf is the next destination, Oda can still go a number of different ways. Case in point, we see Vivi and Morgan's news, and Vivi is like, oh, it's back on. So she seems more invested in this section of the message, and Oda's highlighted that for a reason. So I have my two cents about this. One, Wapple has told Vivi about what he overheard, because it's clear he overheard something, as well as because he was spying in on what happened with Cobra being killed by the Gorosei. So clearly, did he hear what was said as well? Because if that's the case, then there's a possibility he could have already told this about Vivi, and which is why she's taken a lot more interested about the Will of D section of this message than any other portion of Vegapunk's message so far. Or they're setting that up because, number one, Luffy is a D, and obviously Vivi has strong feelings towards Luffy. And maybe that they're gearing that up because Vivi is going to learn that she herself is a D. Like I said, Oda can go a number of different ways here, but those are the two things that make sense to me. Meanwhile, you have York saying to the Gorosei, listen, you just interrupted the transmission, and the snail's memory circuit is still intact. You need to destroy the transponder snail completely, and considering Top Man only rammed the Iron Giant, that didn't work. And that's what I mean by whatever's happening off screen with Nami's group. Last time we saw them was the last chapter, but talking to Sanji, but before then, like, Zoro intercepted Nashjora's attack that was targeting the Sunny. So we don't really know what's going on right now, but whatever the case may be, like, the Gorosei they got a choice to make. Do they go after Luffy and Atlas? And Luffy is with Nami's group, keep in mind. And what I guess Atlas may end up backing them up, I don't know. So there's that aspect, or the Gorosei are going to completely abandon what they do because the message is back on track, and that is not good. However, if you notice the way the way this message has been presented, it looks like a section has been cut off, because it goes from on to say we can call it a will. Gee, I wonder what he could be referring to. And those that have suffered for this, I can only pray my voice reaches you. In my honest opinion, I think whatever's been mentioned about the will of D, what got cut off, has already been mentioned, nobody's gonna hear that. Which I think Oda did this deliberately, because the final section of this message is not going to be about the D. It's not going to be about the Void Century unless it's something major about Emu. That's the only thing I can think of right now, because I literally thought that was it. But no, Oda has other plans, but I don't think Oda's going to reveal anything about the D. Considering how this chapter ended, we could get a flashback still, but it may not. It may come from the Iron Giant. If Oda was going to do that or pull the trigger, now's the time to do it, but because you have the Iron Giant literally interacting with Luffy by the end of this chapter. But the Iron Giant now is once again the target of the Gorosei, because they need to destroy that transponder snail, and the only way they can do that is if they probably dismantle the giant from every piece of scrap that he has left. A bunch of Cypher Pole agents come raining down along with the Seraphim, and we see Jupiter again, and this the first time we see Jupiter by himself, and I guess he's swallowed up the Cypher Pole agents and the Seraphim. We do see one of the Seraphim, I'll get to that in a second. After he spits out the Cypher Pole agents and the Seraphim, I don't know why he swallowed them whole, but either way, he tries to suck in the Giant's ship with the vacuum that we saw from Top Man. So it's not just Top Man who could do it, it's obviously Jupiter as well, being a sandworm. So the question mark of what happened to Jupiter has been answered. He's still in play. I don't know for how much longer, considering after Luffy's punch, but like I said, the Cypher Pole agents get caught by Marines, and one of the Seraphim, and if you look at who it is, it's clearly Seraphim Snake, aka Seraphim Boa Hancock. Boy, how convenient, considering that's another aspect I brought to the table here when it comes to the escape mission. The Seraphim are going to play a role, and yeah, no shit, because we see the Seraphim right here. Ever since Nash Joro cut the lab in half, that was what this is leading to, especially considering that being Seraphim Snake, which it looks like, who we know has no problem following orders given to her by Luffy. Jupiter tries to suck in the ship belonging to the Giants, but immediately in comes Luffy with a punch, and he's using Armament Hockey, much like Bonney did at the beginning of this chapter. And that has an effect, but meanwhile he's leaving Top Man unguarded. You see that the Marines, and you see little Vice Admiral Doll. So she hasn't reverted back to a normal size yet. So in comes Top Man charging for the ship. Luffy's like, yo, this is really tough. Gotta watch yourself. We go to the ship. We see Barney has passed out, reverted to normal. And the giant surfaces from the water out of nowhere, punches the hell out of the Top Man and breaks one of his tusks. Now, what's important to note, before he surfaces and actually punches Top Man, Luffy clearly hears the Iron Giant talking, because he's like Joy Boy, and you can clearly see Luffy's hearing this, and the Iron Giant's underwater, about to surface, and Luffy's hearing this with the voice of all things as the Iron Giant punches Top Man. Listen up, Emoth, the time is at hand. And you see the Giant's bugging out, the eyes are bugging out of his head, so much like Luffy and Bonney do, so that was kind of hilarious. And it looks like the Iron Giant is the time. As the chapter comes to a close, Luffy is freaking out. He's getting starry-eyed because obviously the Iron Giant's punched the hell out of Top Man. So we finally get the interaction between the Iron Giant and Luffy in Gear 5th. That is how the chapter comes to an end. So obviously this chapter ends with a cliffhanger. A lot of people are breaking this down with, we get another cliffhanger with Morse code needed to be deciphered. Although there isn't too much mystery to this, because it's looking like Emoth is the name for the Iron Giant, considering you see the Iron Giant responding the time. So I just keep that in mind. A lot of people could think this means Joy Boy. I don't think so. So I love this chapter because it has a sense of unpredictability when it comes to the Gorosei, because we don't really know now how this is going to end. Bonney is in base. Not only is Bonney reverted to base after one chapter, which I pretty much called in the last review. Not only that, but she only used one attack. I'm guessing a lot more people are going to still cry after this chapter, but And did Oda make a lot of people look like a bunch of dumbass clowns? You love to see it. I find that very ironic that people got butthurt that Bonney assumed the appearance of Gear 5th. Meanwhile, you had Joy Boy back in chapter 1115 revealed to have a similar form to Luffy. Makes sense considering he had the same devil fruit. Immediately after we saw that, keep in mind we saw a silhouette of only one person, but yet despite that we got a plethora of theories suggesting that there could have been more than one Sun God Nika. Back it up, Joy Boy. Join the Void Century against the gods, the Celestial Dragons, right? Back it up, Joy Boy. Join the Void Century against the gods, the Celestial Dragons, right? As far as I can tell, as far as I can remember, we only see one person. Yet, people seem to think that more than one person, assuming the form of Sun God Nika, and yet here we have Bonney, who's Oda has teased since the beginning of this arc with the interactions involved with Luffy that it's going to amount to something big. Yet people have a problem with that, but they're okay with having multiple people look like Sun God Nika join Void Century. Distorted Future, which is a temporary boost, which is also something I said. Number 2 is Oda did not just reveal this just to be a one-off. Like, there's going to be a point, it's going to be a situation that leads to an even bigger moment down the line. Spoiler alert, Bonney is tagging along with the Straw Hats through Elbaf. Wow, gee willikers. I wonder who could have brought that to the forefront. So what happened with Bonney, I have no problem with. I don't care the fact she has a form of Gear 5th. I didn't expect that, but I expected something soon because it was teased. Not only that, but I also mentioned this in the last review too, like this was, you can go back to the moment that Luffy awoke in Gear 5th against Kaido. And I said this in the last review, Kaido brought up the fact that Luffy has influence over the things around him. Gee willikers, and all of a sudden he's having an effect and a direct impact on Bonney, who's also influenced by Nika through Kuma. So I love the ending of this chapter. There's definitely more room to grow for Bonney, as far as there is the possibility of a refueling of, after all, in the last chapter. Luffy did say to the chef of the Giants from Elbaf, who's on that ship, to prepare more food. So that could be a factor here. Or Oda could be waiting, because like I said, this could lead to an even bigger moment involving the two going forward. Like the whole situation involved with the Gorosei is a lot more unpredictable now. Like I said, if Oda does give us a Joy Boy flashback, it's now or never, because the Iron Giant is right there. Luffy is in plain sight, finally about to interact with the Iron Giant. Luffy hears the Iron Giant, or in this case, Emoth, underwater. So this is the perfect opportunity. If it doesn't happen now, it's going to happen on Elbaf, or later down the line. So we'll have to wait and see. Said the two things that happened that I pointed out in the last review, yet again, got backed up in this chapter. Number 1, the Iron Giant was not done. It resurfaced in this chapter. It punched the hell out of Top Man. Number 2, Bonnie's new form lasted an entire chapter. In fact, it only lasted one attack, so there you go. So far, we've got Nash Joro hyping up Bonnie's power, having the ability to destroy a country. We've had Saturn that literally foreshadowed this moment with Bonney assuming... Now, we didn't know she was going to take the appearance of Gear 5th, nor do I care, but because it led to an incredible moment, and it's going to lead to an even bigger moment. But we need to learn more about Bonnie's Devil Fruit. There's also a huge legend of Elbaf when it comes to Nika, and obviously the Giants there revere that legend, so we're going to get some lore possibly there. Speaking of Elbaf, I find it very interesting. We got our first look in the anime in the last episode of One Piece, where we're gearing up for the showdown, or the fight, if you want to call it that, between Shanks and Kid, where that does not look promising for Kid, considering the last time interaction that does not bode well for Kid, considering the last time they had an interaction with the crew, they didn't even get to see Shanks because Ben Beckman took Kid out and was responsible for Kid losing an arm. And Killer says there's a possibility you could lose more than that. You'll lose your life. Now, a lot of people seem to think Kid's out of the picture. Again, I said this about lore, and I'm going to say it about Kid. Until I see a corpse that's named Kid, and no, I'm not talking about fake Kid and not fake Luffy. I'm talking about the actual Eustace Kid. Unless I see a corpse with his name on it, he is not dead. He's not out of the picture. I do find it interesting. We're getting teased Elbaf in the anime, and in the manga, we're gearing up to the finale of Egg Island, and we'll be closing up, if we're not already closing up to like the 2-year mark since this arc started. So boy oh boy, does time fly. So that's gonna do it for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Like the review if you did, the thumbs up, I appreciate that. I appreciate all you guys support. Subscribe for more One Piece. Catch you guys later. Thanks guys, bye.